All right, to finish out chapter 28, we're going to talk about some metabolism. So, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport system are all part of cellular respiration, and they're going to occur in different places and do different things. So, glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm, so it's inside the cell but outside the nucleus. The glucose that you get from your diet will be broken down, releasing electrons and forming ATP. Now, at that point in the mitochondria, the Krebs cycle occurs, which completes the breakdown of glucose with the release of carbon dioxide, more ATP, and then additional electrons, which are all going to be sent to the electron transport system for processing. This also occurs in the mitochondria and is going to convert the energy of electrons to ATP. So each of the three steps, no matter where they occur, no matter what they're called, the goal is to produce ATP, to take something we eat and then turning it into something that can be used as an energy in the cell. So what this looks like is similar to this. It's kind of like a flow chart. You don't need to know any of the specifics with the NADH, FADH2, but just know the general steps, what goes in, what goes out, and that is the overall picture of cellular respiration. And this is what's occurring in our bodies. When you don't eat, you're not supplying your body with glucose, therefore these reactions are not occurring, you're depriving your body of ATP, and it's just kind of a cyclic problem that can occur. So photosynthesis is the process which occurs in plants and algae and some bacteria in the chloroplast, taking the light energy that they receive from the sun to chemical bond energy. So light energy plus the CO2 that they're breathing in and the water that they're bringing in to form glucose, which is why we eat it, and oxygen, which is what we breathe. So we're a very complementary type relationship to each other. Things that breathe out carbon dioxide are going to be just as important as the plants that produce oxygen. The organelle inside the leaf is what's containing the chlorophyll, the green pigment that absorbs the light and initiating the light capturing stage. And there are going to be light independent reactions. So at night, when we don't think that plants are doing anything, they are actually still undergoing photosynthesis. There's just going to be a light dependent reaction they get during the daytime with the sun, and then at night they're then going to go on and produce the sugar. So believe it or not, plants are always producing energy. So this is what it looks like. You have our processes on the right, which then feed into the photosynthesis on the left. So it's a very important cyclic-like process which recycles carbon. So cell division, why do cells divide? Well, one is to increase the number of cells in the body. So as you grow from a fetus to a baby, from a baby to a toddler, toddler to teenager, teenager to adult, to maintain the body, so your cells are dying, so if cells die, they must be replaced, and then to repair damaged tissue. So what happens during cell division? Well, the first process we're going to talk about is mitosis, which is the replication of genetic information that gets equally distributed to two daughter nuclei. And then you have cytokinesis, which is cell splitting, where the cytoplasm will divide into two new cells. And then each cell will get one daughter nuclei, and both cells will have a complete set of genetic information. Okay, so that's mitosis. The goal is just to take one and make two. Now, there are 5 stages of the cell cycle. You have the interphase, which is made up of 3 separate steps, the G1, the S, the G2. G always stands for gap, which is growth, and then S is for synthesis. This interphase is the stage between cell divisions. The cell is engaged in metabolic activities, the nuclear membrane is intact, so chromosome replication occurs, but the individual chromosomes are not visible. It's still just that kind of long spaghetti noodle. Now, in the stages of mitosis, there are 4 separate stages: the prophase, the metaphase, the anaphase, the telophase. During this part, this is where mitosis and cytokinesis occurs, so the actual division and the separation of 1 to 2 cells. When the cell is in the gap G0, gap growth, mitotomic dormancy or differentiation, cells become specialized at that point. So what this looks like is like this. If you have G1 is the first gap phase, the synthesis phase, DNA replication occurs here, then goes back into a growth phase. And then at that point, you're going to have the prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, which feeds back into G1. At that point, the cell's going to move on to G0, growth to adult size and differentiation. Nerve cells, muscle cells, and other cells will just stop dividing. Okay. So interphase is the part that's there in black, almost all of it, and there's just a small portion of it, which is the mitosis and cytokinesis. So the cell spends a lot of time in the growth phase and just a little bit in the actual division stage. So here's another example of what's happening during the interphase. It tells you the cell moves from from G0 into mitosis, the chromosomes replicate. Then once it moves to prophase, you have now this replication occurring. Metaphase, the chromosomes are going to move right along the equator. They're those there in green. They're going to begin to separate into half during anaphase. And then in telophase, you can see the chromosomes which separated are going to move into their new nucleus. And then the cell begins to look like it's pinching off into two separate daughter cells. So that's going to end our chapter 20 discussion. So we moved through the nature of living things, and in chapter 21, we are going to start talking about the origin and the evolution of life. So we've defined what it means to be a living thing, and now we're going to talk about how life changes over time.